Monday, hello to you, and welcome to a new week. Welcome to a new month as well, and welcome to a new member of the Mansfield Today family, the business section of Mansfield Today. We're very happy to have as sponsors our old friends Capital Legacy. Chris knows them very well, and so do I. We worked with them in the past, so we've had a long relationship with Capital Legacy. This business report doesn't only go out to you on YouTube, but will also be going out to the thousands of Capital Legacy clients and their clients as well. So it'll go to the brokers, and we urge the brokers to send it out to their clients so they can keep up to date with what's happening in the business world with our very own businessman Chris Gibbons. Chris, good morning to you, and nice to have you with us once again. It would seem that the economy, as a result of level 4 lockdown, is being buffeted as bad as the Western Cape from a weather point of view.
Good morning, Jeremy. Yes, we know broadly from previous lockdowns, don't we, what the severity is going to be. Restaurants, pubs, taverns, shebeens, and of course tourism, and I'll come to tourism in a moment. And it's a pity because the economy has actually been clawing its way back after the first onslaught of COVID. The ABSA Purchasing Managers Index, 57.4 points in June, very slightly down on 57.8 in May, but this is an index where anything above 50 is expansionary, so definitely on the right track. What the effect of the current lockdown on that number is going to be, we'll have to wait and see. So the restaurants will reappear, the pubs will reopen, most of them eventually, depending on how long the lockdown lasts. We know that Consol has put 1.5 billion rands worth of investment on hold, big new furnace plan for their plant out in Nigel Way. That's back on hold. They say, you keep hammering the booze industry, you can't expect us to invest. That's been on, off, on, and it's now off again. But tourism is really the big problem. And why is that? Well, a United Nations report which came out last week says South Africa is going to feel the economic impact more keenly than many other countries in the field of tourism, because tourists are traveling closer to home and they're traveling to countries with good high rates of vaccination. South Africa is a long-haul destination, and we have at the moment an abysmal rate of vaccination. So the tourists are not going to come, even if, for example, we are taken off the UK's red list or the European Union's red list. Real problem. You want tourism here to recover? The answer is vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. It's as simple as that. One piece of good news over the weekend, though, government, labour and business have agreed at NEDLAC to an extension of the TERS support programme. Details are being hammered out. It needs to go to Cabinet for final approval, but that will definitely bring relief to everyone who's been affected by level 4 lockdown.
There are some dark clouds on the horizon, Chris, if that's possible.
Well, yes. Last week, of course, Rio Tinto, the owner of Richards Bay Minerals, declared force majeure. You will recall that one of their senior managers was murdered on his way to work, gunned down. The violence hasn't gone away, and they say that their staff is not safe. So declared force majeure, which is a technical term, meaning we simply cannot do business, we cannot honour our contracts to our customers. And tellingly, Rio Tinto has said the police need to get in and do their job, reduce the violence in the community, reduce the violence against our operations, get this sorted. And that brings us to the second big cloud on the horizon, which is the Jacob Zuma, does he go to prison or doesn't he question. Here is somebody who has been sentenced to a jail term by the highest court in the land. And he's simply stuck a middle finger up, and he's arguing that he's not going to go. More worryingly, he's massing around him what a better word I'll call the Zulu clans. We've seen some of them on television wearing their skins, traditional Zulu warriors, extremely threatening. And this takes us back to 1994. I know you can remember as far back as that, when we were 3 weeks away from civil war. I recall we were living in World in Johannesburg at the time, and my then quite young son came into my study with a very worried look on his face, and he said, Dad, there's a strange man at the gate. And there was a strange man, a long, thin man wearing grey flannel running shorts called Clem Sunter. And Clem was jumping up and down, going, he's in, he's in, he's in. He was talking about Mangosuthu Buthelez's decision to join the election, to join the electoral process in '94. We were that close to civil war. And I start to sense that something like this is brewing in KZN at the moment, courtesy of Jacob Zuma, and the economic impact of any kind of insurrection in KZN would be utterly devastating. So let me echo Richards Bay Minerals and RTZ. The police need to get in there and do their job. Critical from an investment point of view.
Let's take a totally different look at things that are going on now. Eskom and climate change. I didn't think I'd see those two words with Eskom, but they've evidently approached the World Bank, am I correct, to try and source a loan.
Yes, and a very big loan indeed. This is all underpinned, Jeremy, by the Presidential Commission on Climate Change, which is calling for a much faster switch away from coal-fired power towards renewables. The president himself chairs the commission, but it's effectively run by its vice chair, former cabinet minister Mohamed Vali Musa, and it wants South Africa to commit to generating net zero emissions by 2050. Along the way, that would mean getting to a 2030 target of somewhere between 350 to 420 megatons of carbon dioxide, bringing our level of emissions down to that. Now, to do that, Eskom, which is the biggest emitter of CO2 in South Africa, in Africa, in fact, it's going to have to decommission its already elderly, already very dirty coal-fired power stations much more quickly than it had planned. And to do that, it's going to need a big loan. And it's gone to the World Bank, which is apparently quite receptive to this kind of thing. The amount being talked about, $10 billion US. Part of that, of course, will go towards what's called a just transition, finding work, finding retraining, finding new skills for people involved in the coal industry. The interesting thing is this: there are plenty of funds available for this kind of switch away from fossil fuels to renewables. And the flip side of that coin is that if we don't make the switch, then our customers in places like Europe and the United States are not going to do business, because they will only do business in the future with companies and countries which are properly green.
Tour by the British and Irish Lions is underway. Wasn't a very good result on Friday night with the Sigma Lions. See what the Stormers can do. But it is a vital tour, Chris, for South African rugby, isn't it?
Yeah, because, Jeremy, South African rugby's finances are in parlous condition. A couple of years of really bad management, but absolutely hammered by the pandemic, no crowds going into games, so on and so forth. So the Lions tour goes ahead. It's a must go ahead. Played behind empty doors, locked doors in empty stadiums, and it will go some way towards putting money back into the coffers. But I want to give you some numbers here. Just think about these. The last Lions tour to New Zealand, 2017, saw 342,000 paying spectators across the series, 26,000 additional visitors to New Zealand. It produced an addition to New Zealand's GDP of 245 million New Zealand dollars. That's roughly 2.5 billion South African rand. The tour itself made a profit of 33.4 million New Zealand dollars, 334 million rand. So those are the kind of numbers which we had been hoping for, but which we are missing out on. South African rugby lost 7.9 million rand last year. Not bad when you consider a major drop in broadcast and sponsorship revenue. 669 million revenue from a forecast 1.3 billion. So we need this Lions tour, and we need it to be as successful as possible for the long-term good of the game in this country.
Finding the markets, onward and upward.
Well, at least on Wall Street, Jeremy, where the records continue to tumble, the Dow, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, all closing last week at fresh record highs. That is being driven by a very solid economic recovery in the US. We saw this underlined on Friday with the latest employment figures over there. Year to date, the Dow is up 13.7%, the S&P 500 up 15.9%, the NASDAQ up 13.6%. So how do we compare? The answer is not too badly. JSE All Share year to date up 11.6%, top 40 up 10.9%, and that is our strongest first half of the year performance for 14 years. And it puts us well ahead of our emerging market peers. They're averaging about 7%. As I say, we're up 11.6. US banking giant JP Morgan says that as far as South Africa is concerned, this trend will continue. JP Morgan has singled out a number of shares to keep an eye on, South African shares, Sibanye Stillwater, MTN, Capitec, ABSA, and Bidvest. Interesting selection there. Gold down 7% year to date. Platinum's flat. The rand slightly up year to date against the dollar, just over 2%. Now, looking ahead this coming week, we have the release of another Purchasing Managers Index. So that's later today. Midweek, we'll get the latest foreign exchange reserves. No big surprises expected there. We'll have the monthly Business Confidence Index from the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Not certain if the period surveyed will cover the latest lockdown, but if it does, I think we can expect to see something of a dip. Key to all of this, Jeremy, is how long this current lockdown is going to last. If it's the 2 weeks originally proposed by or stipulated by President Ramaphosa, then I don't think the damage is going to be great. If it runs longer than that, those are the indications, given the spike in COVID cases, I think we're in for a bit of a bumpy month or two.
Just sitting back thinking, I think it's the only business report in the country, possibly in the world, where you get business, you get politics, you get climate change, you get rugby, and you get to look at the markets as well. But thank you for all of that, Chris. Lovely to chat to you once again, and we'll do it all again next week. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Jeremy.
And the business/climate change/rugby/anything else, courtesy of Chris Gibbons, is brought to you by Capital Legacy. Is your will in order? Visit www.capitallegacy.co.za to sort out your will and estate. Until next time, keep well and keep warm. Bye-bye.